Exactly 1 week from today, we'll celebrate our nation's 244th birthday. Over all those years, we've faced major challenges, but seldom so many all at once. The pandemic, the subsequent economic crisis, and now a civil rights reckoning are not only making headlines, they're rattling many of us to the core. Now, some are looking to help us address that stress with mental health tools tailored to those who are most affected.
The fever came with the breathing combined, and I didn't know if I was going to be able to take my next breath.
Neonatal ICU nurse Tanya Cornejo has been on a long road to recovery from COVID-19.
I was so busy worried about myself, worried my health, worried about my children and their safety, my husband and his safety. I really wasn't focusing on my mental health.
In the midst of the pandemic, you were at your wit's end.
Of course, yeah. I needed that time to focus and check in with myself and say, this is where I am. I am in crisis. I am afraid, and I need to accept that and work through it.
In through the nose and out through the mouth. Noticing how our bodies rise and fall.
For those 5 minutes of mindfulness, Cornejo turns to Shine, a self-care app that offered free subscriptions to essential workers.
And let your hands rest at your sides.
Frontline workers aren't the only ones needing support. Recent data from the Census Bureau suggests 1/3 of Americans are showing signs of clinical anxiety or depression, a figure that is not surprising to psychiatrist Marquita Wills.
We've got the pandemic, the public health crisis. We've got the resulting financial crisis. We have the civil unrest and the social justice crisis, all piled up onto each other.
Communities of color were already dealing with the stress of being hit harder by COVID-19. But after George Floyd's killing, the disparity became more stark, with more than 40% of Black Americans screening positive for anxiety or depression.
Some of the very graphic videos that we're seeing on the news right now are very disturbing. And when we see that, what it does is it spikes up our cortisol levels and puts our stress hormones up. Given sort of the collective, historic, transgenerational traumas that we've all faced as people of color, there ends up being a unique expression of our mental health right now.
Have you found through your experience that mental health is used against some of these communities?
There have, of course, been historical injustices against communities of color with regards to the medical system, but that is evolving and changing, and I think more and more I'm inviting more communities of color into various therapeutic spaces.
Mara Leidy and Naomi Hirabayashi are intent on creating one of those spaces.
Let's take some time to connect with you.
They are the founders of Shine.
Wrap your arms around your torso for a self-hug.
The app nurse Tanya Cornejo and more than 4 million others use to decompress.
We name an experience or a feeling that connects to being marginalized because it helps give us the vocabulary of, oh, that's what it was, right? That's what I was feeling. And I didn't know it was called that. I didn't know other people were experiencing that.
Are more people reaching out? Are they finding you in this time of crisis? Whether it's COVID-19 or it's the protesting movement that has been sparked by the death of George Floyd.
What we're finding is those users are looking for a deeper level of support around racial trauma, and we're also seeing an influx of new users who didn't realize that Shine was founded by a Black woman or 2 women of color.
Many of you could be struggling with what's called compassion fatigue. This is a type of burnout faced by healthcare workers and caregivers.
In addition to free resources for essential workers, Shine's meditations specific to Black well-being have been in demand.
Racial trauma is the mental health symptoms a person experiences as a result of racism or discrimination.
I think what's so important is that we have a daily product and daily content that speaks to the experience of being marginalized, whether that's an Asian American experiencing racism due to COVID-19, Black Americans that are dying at higher rates and dealing with the structural racism that's finally being confronted in our country. We're talking about that every day.
Hey Shine family, I'm Jamila.
90% of Shine's content is voiced by Black women. designed to connect with underserved communities.
We hope that SHINE, as a coalition of mental health organizations around the world, fundamentally shift representation and access in mental health care, and that we see those direct results in anxiety and depression, specifically for marginalized communities.
Welcome to your Daily Shine.
And every day help people like Tanya Cornejo not only cope, but thrive.
That helped me to focus and say, yeah, I do need to check in with myself. I need to make sure that I'm coping well so that I can get through this and be here for my family, and not just be here, but be present.
And, you know, in talking to Tanya, it's so hard for us to wrap our heads around the fact that these apps, there's so many of them out there, can really help you in 5 to 10 minutes. Just breathing can make all the difference.
So important, and it's important to find the right one. And I think what was so important about the piece, Michelle, is pointing out that it is different. The experience is different for every single person, and that race can play a factor.